Hello there and welcome to this Friday's SBC News. President Wavel Ramkalawan today led a delegation for a visit on Praslin and La Digue. The aim of the visit was to see projects underway and the progress that has been made. The delegation first visited the Byzantine terminal in Praslin, where the president could see the stage of the project. President Ramkalawan was accompanied by several ministers, the minister responsible for fisheries, Jean-François Ferrari, the Minister for Investment, Entrepreneurship and Industry, Devika Vidot, the Minister for Transport, Anthony Derjak, Brigadier Michael Rosette, and the CEO of the Fishing Authority, Nicole Elizabeth. PUC CEO Joël Valmont and other government officials were also present. The president and his delegation also during the day inspected projects on La Digue. The United Nations has expressed its commitment to help Seychelles achieve its sustainable development goals. This was during a high-level policy dialogue between Seychelles ministers and the UN country team, which is currently here on its annual retreat.
The dialogue was held yesterday at the STC Hall and was co-chaired by UN Resident Coordinator for Seychelles and Mauritius, Christine Numutoni, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Tourism, Sylvestre Radegonde. 5 main sectors were discussed: transformative economy, environment, sustainability and climate change, human rights, law and order, health and social affairs, as well as education and culture. One point that resonated throughout the dialogue was Seychelles' response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and Mrs. Umutoni has said that long-term planning is essential to prepare for such shocks.
A long-term planning, not short-term planning, I think would be something that all countries must work on. Resilience, building resilient economies and resilient communities. And as we build back, not to rush, but rather to plan systematically so that we can prepare for any subsequent shock, because shocks are not finished. Even COVID is not finished to be. But I think we also realize that COVID has shown us that the country needs to be food secure, because when the borders were closed and we could not import food, it was a huge challenge for the country. And also we realized that the economy is over-centralized on tourism, a need for diversification. We realize that although we talk about the GDP for the country, actually a GDP can crash in a minute, like with a pandemic like that one. So we need to think beyond GDP and look at human life and human development and leave no one behind.
The Public Service Appeals Board has up to February this year heard 70 complaints. The actual board was appointed in November last year, but started hearing complaints in February as it was still settling at its new premises in Premier Building in Victoria. Since January to date, the PSAB has registered 31 complaints. The board's chairman, Brian Julie, says they are continuously receiving complaints, many of which do not fall under PSAB's jurisdiction, as the complainants are not from the public service sector.
From February until now, we have entertained at least 70 cases, some of which were registered under the old board. And we have tried our best, although most of these cases were not supposed to be filed before PSAB, we've tried to advise the complainants and not to just turn them away as to the next course of action, what they should do to ensure that their application is not time barred.
And what are the main complaints that come before the PSAB?
Right now, it's mostly linked with appointments, transfer, annual leave, disciplinary matters, and payment of compensation, which the employer in most cases say you are not entitled. You've committed a serious disciplinary offense, which warrants instant dismissal without notice and without compensation.
Some 20 educators are participating in a two-day workshop to enhance their knowledge on how to access educational resources online and how to adapt the resources to their teaching and learning environment. The workshop, being held at the Savoy Hotel, has been organized by the Ministry of Education with the assistance from the Commonwealth of Learning, which facilitates the access of educational resources online known as OER. One of the two facilitators from the Commonwealth of Learning, Sanjaya Mishra, says that access to OER is a UNESCO recommendation.
The OER movement has been embraced by the UNESCO, and in 2019 there is a UNESCO OER recommendation to it. And therefore every government is taking steps, appropriate steps to utilize the OER movement in the right direction as a follow-up of the UNESCO OER recommendation. Luckily for Seychelles, 2014 ICT in education policy accepted open educational resources as something that needs to be fostered around. And it is one of the leading country in Africa to have taken that steps way back in 2014.
The Seychelles Prison Services, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, NGOs and other partners, plans on decentralizing its health services. This comes after further increase in the number of HIV/AIDS cases at the Mortagne-Posay prison. The AIDS program manager for the Ministry of Health, Sabrina Mouspe, stated during a meeting that the work which has been carried out is of high importance and has received the participation of all concerned parties. The aim of the meeting was to inform relevant partners on the current situation vis-à-vis HIV/AIDS and viral hepatitis at the Seychelles prison and how they can work together to tackle the issue. The Commissioner of Prisons, Raymond Saint-Ange, has said that the roadmap in place will enable the Seychelles prison to come up with more educational programs for their clients who are also inmates at the facility. The staff of the Seychelles prison will also be included in the process.
The way forward, what its role is to make sure that the roadmap that we've agreed on is arrived at. So we've got some work to do over the next 2 years. A lot of it has happened started since yesterday. Certainly the committee met yet today. We will agree on what needs to be done. We thank the support of the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Internal Affairs and all the other actors, NAC and so on, who are here today. Sensitization, education, awareness is important. Understanding what happens to the body when you use drugs, alcohol, cigarettes is important. Making sure that we have our inmates who are HIV positive on their treatment so they can reduce their levels of infection is important. Making sure that when they leave the prison that there's a follow-up, there's a continuity, their families are aware so there's no spread into the community is important. So that's why this work happens today. In the past it was more piecemeal, a lot of silo work. The new catchphrase today is break those silos, and we support that 100%. We're too small to be working against each other. It's one government, national goals. We're part of aiding and assisting and contributing to a safer community.
The Financial Services Authority participated in the Asia Outbound Summit, which was held in Dubai from the 17th to the 18th of May. The delegation was headed by FSA's CEO, Damien Tese. The business conference targeted potential investors and the international business community in the financial services industry. The summit focused on the structures available in the Seychelles as possible investment vehicles. The event allows Seychelles to maintain its visibility internationally as well as to showcase the advances of setting up such businesses and investing in Seychelles. And with this, we end this news summary.